Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Scotch Trekker.
Sorry, I have to. I'm like, it's like.
I know. I love that.
So I feel like it's the way it's Star Trek
Some
dance
entertainment.
party. Do the Spock.
Star
Hi,
Trek.
Chris. I'm Danny. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Danny. How are you? Nice to meet you too.
If you didn't know, I'm here for comic effect. That's why they keep me around.
That's good. We need
So,
that.
but hi, Dan. Hi, Bob. How's
Hi,
life?
Danny. Maybe since I'm the oldest ranking officer, I could just pretend that I'm Steve Parmalee. Yeah, I've been to enough AMAs. I've done enough After Darks, and I spent an enormous amount of hours last night, which is probably why Steve's not here. He's probably sleeping because we had what's called an Admiralty Board meeting last night, and it was very, very late because we accommodated the international folks because they're part of our group. So we were up till 2 a.m. So maybe he's dozing off.
That happens.
Well, I think he's tried to join us, and due to technical complications, he's not able to, sadly. But
Hi,
yeah, we
Fran.
can still have a great discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
there's always stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's so many Star Trek rumors and stuff that's happening. You guys were talking about something when I first came in. What were y'all talking about?
oh yeah, the Scott Bakula rumors about Archer coming back or potentially coming
Ooh.
back.
I think he's going to have his voice on Lower Decks. So that's what I heard. I don't know if that's if that's true or not, but I think that's what I heard. But that'll be welcome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, Lower Decks it'd be cool, but I mean, I also wouldn't mind live action Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
I think poor Enterprise is a show that became interesting as it was canceled.
Yes. The
And
last
then
season.
Because I mean, I don't know if I know we've had different discussions, but like for me, for Enterprise, I think it would have made more sense if they would have shown maybe him going through maybe the academy and then going into a ship or something that gave more of like, or at least told you more about what was going on to get them on that first, long distance ship. And then,
Well,
have those things happen
Yeah.
to them. Because I
that's
think
what-
that would have helped them.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before we went live with Chris before he joined us, which was like the plan originally was like to set the whole of the first season on Earth, which I thought was an interesting idea.
Yeah, and we could have seen the ship getting built and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
all of that stuff. Yeah.
because I think that would have given because that's something we've never seen, and it being the first Enterprise, going out there and it's kind of already there.
First Starship.
Yeah, I think it would have just.
I think there was
made
a
it-
lot of missteps with Enterprise, and I don't want to be the one to be the basher of the show, but I really
yeah.
think that it could have been such a much better developed show. It just, I mean, I was uncomfortable with the idea that our real first encounter with the Klingons was them coming to Earth and blowing up a silo. I was like, no, that's not that. Previously, I know there was no really established canon story of our first encounter with the Klingons, but I think we always assumed.
There was.
Well, was there? I mean, that there was kind of some contact. There was a misunderstanding. There, of course, obviously more military, but it was out there. Not that they came to us and blew up a bar.
Necessarily. Yeah,
like I just didn't like
but,
that.
Yeah, it is said in the Next Generation episode, First Contact. There was what was it 100 years? I think it was of like hostilities between them and us, basically.
Yeah, that's.
So you're saying it's not the Discovery way? Just kidding. Just joking.
with the Klingon War.
Sorry, I know. I like to make Discovery jokes.
That's okay. I mean, I like Discovery, but I like it's like with all Trek. I have
know.
issues with all Trek, but yeah, Discovery I don't like as much as the TNG era.
I like it, but I don't love it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of fans.
I love it.
I know, except for I know Dan. It's so funny, Dan.
People have
Everything we
certain
have like the
shows.
opposite of things.
Yeah, like the Wrath of Khan
I
thing.
think that's great.
What, you don't like the Wrath of Khan?
I heard. Didn't you say that you weren't a big Wrath of Khan fan?
Me, I think like Wrath of Khan is probably my least favorite of all Star Trek films.
Wow.
Over Star Trek 5?
Yeah,
Hey,
over
you gotta hurry
any of them.
dancing.
Over Into Darkness?
Like
I liked Into
Like,
Darkness.
well,
That's
I
always
don't
fun.
mind Into Darkness.
Into
It
Darkness
has
is my
its
favorite.
issues.
It's my favorite.
That's interesting.
I have questions. Like, I have questions. But I was like, wait, go back. Can we go back to Enterprise first? Because I have a million questions. I need to write them all down. And then it'll be a whole episode of, say what? I know. Thank you, Fran. Wrath of Khan. It's one of the best. But I have questions. Wait, but literally, the Wrath of Khan and Into Darkness are the same movie, kind of. You know, like
No, they're not. There's only one scene
I mean-
that's copied.
I know. They have, you know.
And they could have saved the
Things.
whole movie without that one scene where he
Yeah.
says who he is.
All they had to do
No.
was just make him not Khan, and it would have been good.
Yeah.
Exactly, Chris.
I would
Exactly.
agree.
No.
All they had to-
That film is like so misunderstood. I feel like I love that scene because it's like a completely different context as it is in the Wrath of Khan, and they were finally canonically doing what they were already doing in the comics, which is showing that like even though it's a completely different universe, similar things could happen. So you've got like so many story arcs in the comics at that time. IDW's ongoing series were stuff like the Galileo 7, where the story was slightly adjusted from how it took place in the Prime universe, but very similar. So I thought that was really interesting that they did that in like the film series, and it's only in that one scene. So I think it's great they did that.
15 years.
I still watch the movie all
Wrath
the
of Khan
time.
happened 15 years in the Prime universe, whereas some of these things that were similar that happened in the Kelvinverse was way before. Would have been more like spacey time,
Oh yeah, no, I got
Yeah.
that part too, and I don't dislike Into Darkness. I was like, no, I used to have. I mean, you can't see because my living room's over there. I have a Beyond movie poster that is framed, and I have an Into Darkness one too. Because I actually like the Kelvin films.
Yeah,
I
me
didn't
too.
dislike them because I think the cast is so good that I really was very sad that has not been a fourth movie. Like, I didn't mind the whole, like, here we are, we're in the Kelvin time. And I'm like, this is cool because they get to either, visit things that they did before, but in a different way, or you get to see different things as they didn't happen. And then you don't have to hear, well, that's not canon because because it's in the Kelvin time.
Yep.
Hence why
Yeah.
Discovery. Like, sometimes when people get all up in arms about different things in Discovery it makes it a little bit harder. So
it's also interesting that and I'm glad, Danny, you brought up Beyond, because most of us
I love
think,
Beyond.
love Beyond.
that is
I
my
like Beyond a
favorite
lot.
out of the
So
Kelvin.
for the Kelvinverse series, I think many people like that movie even above Star Trek, from 2009, and Into Darkness is kind of placed in the third lane for most of us. But what I was going to bring up is that I remember the difference on a fandom level, because most Starfleet chapters, when in Star Trek groups, when a movie comes out, we're fortunate in some cases, in many cases, where we make contact with the movie theater management and are able to do a movie promotion, meaning that we basically, for the opening weekend, get to camp out, come in uniform. Sometimes we were able to have a table or even a mock set of the bridge or something. The last one in Beyond, the theater manager was a fan, and he actually made us a transporter room mock-up, and that they devoted the money for their promotion. He deliberately chose Star Trek, and he and his girlfriend even dressed up and joined us in uniform and stuff. But I remember the difference between Into Darkness, which even though it wasn't my, our favorite film, maybe because of the fact that it was bad weather or promoted better or what, had more people come out that weekend. We recruited more people that weekend from that movie than we did with Beyond, even though there was a bigger local promotional push because we had that set and we had all the enthusiasm of the manager. The manager on Into Darkness, he was like, "Oh, it's a Star Trek film. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, do your thing. We don't care. What I even forgot, that you guys were coming. But yeah, do whatever you want." So, and we had the opposite. And unfortunately, maybe because I live in a summer area, a summer tourism area in Toms River, New Jersey, it was beautiful weather. Maybe people wanted to go to the beach instead, or or whatever. And we didn't get as many people in the theater for Beyond. And we had all this extra stuff, there. And in fact, even food, which of course ended up being my crew, being the great eaters that we are, ate the snacks that they ate. But and we watched the movie. We got to watch the movie for free and stuff, and we were like, wow, this is a hit movie. Beyond is like so good. It was written by, by members of the cast. This is wonderful. And then later on, we like it commercially didn't do as well as they expected, and that's why there was a whole question of a fourth movie. So it's just funny how things turned out that way. Like the movies that we may enjoy the most, other people may not.
Well, I knew that one was different because my husband, who unfortunately is not a Trek fan, he really liked it because he'll go with me to the movies. He'll watch them, and now I go and watch them twice so that when I go with him, then he can ask me all the questions so that I'm like, hey, knock it off. I'm like, hey, stop it. So now he can ask me the question. But my husband, he sat through the whole time and he was like, at the end, he goes, that movie was fun. And, not knowing things, like I thought it had the perfect amount of Trekky techno babble to like action movie-ish without trying to make it into a Star Wars movie. Like, because sometimes like 2000, lens flares, but
looked cool though.
Huh?
I looked cool. I love 2009.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. I love the Kelvin line. I think it's kind of funny that I hope that that they get to make another one because I think the cast is amazing. And the good thing about the cast being like they can be the ages they are and still go with it because it's kind of fun that it's kind of timeless and stuff. So
recently I was thinking like why do you feel like a disconnect between like current Star Trek and the Kelvin timeline? And I thought like was it because like technically you had the Kelvin timeline films and then you had like current Trek and like checking the dates. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So like Beyond was in like 2016 and then Discovery was in 2017. So like you're like now like how do you continue that when you feel like distant from it partly because of the TV series?
I think it's some of the interesting things, like when people are like, oh, this is not my Trek or whatever, because there's, either like more violence or there's cursing or something like that. That doesn't bother me. And I'm like, I'm okay with that because I'm an adult. I mean, I get as well, though, like, oh, the kids and stuff. But I'm like, Star Trek has always had things in it that could be questionable for your kids. But I think sometimes that maybe it is that kind of like that disconnect where you're like, you feel like they feel that, I guess, because how they're filmed, the Kelvin timeline movies look so much like Discovery that you keep thinking in your head that this has to be a Kelvin timeline. I'm not, that was me in the beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what it is how like how the aesthetic of it looks, how things, that's what I mean
also
by
like
because it's so beautifully shot. And
it is. I mean, the first season was really dark.
You can look at it and say, this is before, that.
Yeah.
You just can't. It's a victim of its own beauty, in a way. And a lot of these stories really could have been told had this show been set
in the future.
and not, I
In
don't
the
know why
past.
they chose to do the prequel route.
Mhm.
Because even though there was the connection with the Spock family, you could have done that same storyline without it having been Spock's father, connected to Michael Burnham. You could have not had that connection at all and still done a decent story and still told the same story if you said it in the future. And that's the frustrating
Spock's
part to
great,
me.
great, great, great grandchild.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like
a different. Who's to say another Vulcan ambassador wouldn't have done the same thing? It's like it didn't have to have that connection.
Yeah, I
Like,
think it would have been better in the future, and I'm
'Cause
glad
I
it's
think
there
it's better.
now. So I
Because
think
it's better in the future.
more possibilities.
I think that's why the writers recognized this, or producers, and recognized we got to do something, and let's jump it to the future where maybe it should have belonged, maybe not that far in the future, but let's push it ahead and correct it in much the same way that Enterprise, when the producers realized almost from the get-go that we gotta rehash this whole show, which is why in season 2 I think we started to have the whole Mindy, that whole storyline, that Time
But
War,
also that was influenced by like 9/11 at the time and stuff like that.
9/11.
And
Yeah.
I thought what's really interesting in Enterprise that whole arc that takes place in the third season was originally to be involving the Romulans rather than the Xindi.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, that would have been cool. But no, I think
would have
season
been.
3 is way too underappreciated. I think because it's come out now, well, it didn't come out now, but if you watch it on Netflix and you watch it all the way through within a couple of weeks, maybe, or maybe a month, depending on how much you want to watch it, I think it's the best way because then you can really see the character growth. Because I think it's right up there with DS9 in terms of seeing a character one way at the beginning of the season and then seeing them slowly change.
to Paul.
Like to Paul and
Yeah.
Archer.
Because the
Like,
first
they're
2
totally
seasons,
different.
she was wooden. Like, it was like pretty much her direction was just be a bitch. Sorry to be like, and I'm like, and because you knew that she was so much more than that, but it was just kind of like, you don't need to see her naked every other episode. And she doesn't need to. I mean, fine, yes, be holier than thou. You're a Vulcan. That makes sense. But then sometimes she would just do stuff, and you're like, is this just being vindictive for some reason, or is it you're really think that this is a child race? Like it's almost like Q, like you're a child race and you don't know what you're doing, but you're on the ship with them. You're on the ship with them. So if they do these things and you're not going to help them get out of it, you realize logically you're going to die too. Like that's like some of the decisions. That's what I meant by it. Like,
Yeah. I think in her defense though,
didn't quite gel with each other either. Like Archer and Trip obviously were good friends. I mean, that was a good relationship, and but the rest, it just didn't seem to always gel together. And certain, like I loved Hoshi, but like Hoshi was even a question mark at times. Like
I thought I loved her premise and the fact that like Nichelle Nichols, she finally when they actually let Uhura understand languages, which she's a communications officer because she kept saying that, the fact that Hoshi was a communications officer that was a linguistics, that was she like when I first started, I actually binge watched Enterprise. I didn't really watch it when it was on. I forgot. I think I either I was in high school going into college or something like that. I don't know. But it was hard because I went, she's going to be my favorite character. I love that she's a linguist. Then it was just like, she's a linguist that doesn't want to be there. And every episode is her not wanting to be there. And I'm like, why did you force her to be there?
And I found that really difficult, quite frustrating when it was on. Because like it was a return, I thought, to like the triumvirate notion that they'd had in the original series. In that case, it was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and in Enterprise, it was like Archer, Chip, and T'Pol. And like the other characters, like watching it, blah blah blah, watching week to week, I was like. When will you establish more about these characters? Please give us an ensemble again.
It's Travis.
Mayweather.
Travis.
He got nothing.
Who are sent him in this
It was like, okay, I get to sit and drive the
I
ship.
get
Maybe I'll get a
to-
line this week. I hope.
And
Yeah.
he should, to be honest, he should have been a lot higher ranked than most people. He actually lived in space compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
Because that was the
Right,
whole
yeah.
thing wasn't I forgot it was something boomer or
Oh, a
Spooner
space boomer.
space boomer or something like
Yeah.
that. And I feel like he would have been extremely knowledgeable about things. And every once in a while they would ask him and he would be like, yeah, I've seen this before. And I'm like, why don't you ever ask him? I'm like, but
Yeah,
at least
I thought that you should like at least be a lieutenant rather than Lanson. So it's like,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. That's what I'm saying. Because I mean, even in Voyager, when people got field commissions, certain people got higher field commissions than people who were in Starfleet had.
Yep.
Looking at you, Harry Kim,
And then
Ensign
there's
Forever.
Nog, who
Right?
gets
Well, the
in
thing ab-
like within
know.
3 years. He joins the academy, applies for the academy, gets into the academy, graduates, becomes an ensign, and then becomes a lieutenant. All in like
Right.
3 or 4 years.
And poor Harry Kim.
Harry
is
Kim
still-
dies
but
and he
the-
still doesn't get promoted.
he's still
Remember?
Ensign.
Yeah.
but
He
but
got-
the,
he
the
got
thing is, I think,
replaced by his own double. If you remember the episode, and
Yep,
it's
that's
like,
a
Yeah,
good
exactly.
episode, yeah.
can you promote the poor guy just for surviving? You know,
Thank you.
yeah.
but
Sorry,
he
go
does
ahead.
become a captain.
He does, yeah, technically, but
Yeah.
then there's the whole
Did they
Janeway situation.
they went here's a
Endgame.
pity, here's pity pips. We're gonna give you some more. No, oh wait, one more. You know what? Just take off 4. You got 4. You
I think
got
she
you.
erased it.
No, he's actually in command of a starship in Endgame, but in the alternate timeline.
Right, yeah. The
I know.
Rhode
Poor-
Island, I think.
He's,
Yeah.
I will give it to him. I did. That's the one thing about Voyager when he goes. You know, if we wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't be an ensign anymore. 7 years. And I'm like, when he called, I was like, when they finally kind of called it out.
But that's one of his worst episodes when it's
It
like
is.
he's sleeping
It's
around with
terrible.
another like she's sleeping around with an alien or something, and then he gets a weird space
He gets-
disease, and then he's trying
he
to
gets
defend
space
himself. Like, yeah, I've been
STDs.
perfect. I've been perfect for so
He's
long. And I get it.
STDs in space.
He's
Well, I
got
was worried about
STDs.
Hoshi that time. You know, when she hooked up with that alien, and this is before a period of time where you know a lot about this alien race. It's like, okay, I'm glad you kind of fell for him real quick, but you know, we don't know about humans and aliens and their capability. You know, like
What
mean-
on Ryza? The
Was it on
where she's
Ryza?
learning I remember in
Or-
the Ryza episode she was learning an alien language and she was
Or the third season.
this was, I
Oh.
thought early on, and I forgot now the episode because I have rarely rewatched Enterprise.
It was probably on
no,
Rise.
it's growing on me. Every
Yeah.
time I watch it, I like it more and more.
That's what I said. I didn't.
I should binge it like Danny.
I binged it, and because
Mhm.
I think I did try to watch it when it was on UPN, and then I toned out after like in the middle of it, and then I went back when it was on Netflix, and I decided to rewatch everything, and I was like, all right, you know what? Let's just sit down and watch it. And I just remember getting through the first couple of episodes, going, oh. It's been a long, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's already been a long road.
Mhm.
And then, but then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is. But I love Trip from day one.
Oh, Trip is amazing.
Yes,
Trip was-
I think everybody loves Trip. Yeah. And then,
But
for
also
and
I was-
Malcolm.
the
I actually really
finale,
liked Malcolm too.
like what happened with the finale, that was the worst.
Because he's a douche.
One of the worst finales I've ever seen. Not only of a
Oh,
Star
it's
Trek
terrible.
show, but
You-
period.
I
You
loved
mean
it.
you weren't excited about seeing that Chef
Dan,
was
you loved
Riker?
it. The actors hate it. The writers even
I loved
hated
it.
The producer
Nobody liked it.
apologized for it, Dan.
Dude,
Literally, the producer
Dan!
responsible
who
apologized.
are
Said
you,
He missed
Dan?
the mark.
I feel like Dan, you made this comment about like drinking. I feel like we're gonna have like you're gonna make me start popping some stuff out and go, Dan, what are you talking about, man? Okay, explain to me why you liked that ending.
Well,
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Open mind.
I'm excited.
because I always regarded, like you've got the two-parter like before it as like the season finale, basically. And
Right.
Should have been the end.
I think, if anything, I think it was a mistake to release these voyages as part of that season. I think they would even, or maybe to release it afterwards and say, like, this is the entire season ending with Terra Prime and Demons, and then go, like, here's an extra episode we've done, which would be These Are the Voyages. I think that would have been a cool idea. I really like how Demons ends with, you've got, like, the talk from Archer, and then, sad discussion, basically, with Trip and DePaul about the baby that basically foreshadows Spock, and the hybrid child who they call Elizabeth, and then, like, These Are the Voyages I really liked because I liked much more than a lot of fans, I think, at the time, because after it was broadcast, like, I was in, like, Forbidden Planet or somewhere like that, and I would hear, like, people saying, like, the series finale of Enterprise was so bad because it turns out that, like, the whole series was on the holodeck, and I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not at all what that episode.
No, that's not what. No. We all know that. Yeah, no, that's no.
So I thought it was cool that they watch it and it ties into the Next Generation, and from the perspective of, like, behind the scenes, I thought it was really cool. Which I think, like, Enterprise, I was thinking recently probably works, I think, a lot better from, like, viewing it and considering it from behind the scenes perspective, and thinking about, like, the plans they had for season 5 and stuff like that, which unfortunately they didn't go into, and the plans that the studio were trying to enforce on them to have, like, a band every episode in the mess hall. Unfortunately, like, they didn't have to go down that route. I thought they got away with it really better than, like, they could have been, and yeah, I thought it was, like, an interesting perspective, especially if you're familiar with, like, the episode of the Next Generation, the Pegasus.
But but it messes that episode up.
It messes that episode up for me.
Yeah.
Because my issue is Riker doesn't come to the decision to tell the truth because of, like, because he had a thing. It was just like, if you watch the episode, it's because they're on the bridge, and then he's like, oh crap, I got to tell everybody what's going on because we're going to die. Not because he was inspired by the program.
But personally, like, I really don't like that episode anyway. So I'm like, I don't really care entirely too much. Like, if it feeds, like, directly into what's happening in the episode.
But we got Pouty War from that.
A pretty cool, like, callback to it.
It was
and also like what they were trying to do, like, all season long was, like, leading up to the creation of the Federation, and then at the end of the episode, you've got, like, Archer's about to make his founding speech. I wish they had shown, like, the founding speech.
I do too.
See, and
I would have liked to have heard the speech.
Thank you. I think, honestly, if they were going to do that, they could have cut the Riker part out and just gone for just that. Like, having Riker.
But also, as well, Riker. I thought they did like really well farewells, like, between, like, Phlox and Archer, and between DePaul and Archer, and I thought it was cool that, like,
they killed Trip.
That was unforgivable.
They didn't really. They killed Trip as depicted on the holodeck. They didn't kill Trip, and you would know that, like, if you read the novels where he's actually brought back.
But I don't read the novel. I know, but see.
Okay, I'm glad. So he exists in the novels, though. So he exists in the novels,
that makes me feel a little bit better. Beta, which are not necessarily canon, like, depending on who you talk to. So, according to, like, if you watch the shows which are canon, Trip is dead.
He dead.
He dead.
Well, no, he's not. He's not. The holographic character of Trip is dead, not Trip himself.
Okay, so even within the canon, he's technically not. According to those books, he's not. Because I do not canon, but, like, even the Voyager books, I feel like they're kind of close
thorough.
To canon.
Yeah.
It was the downer.
I get that.
It was
but
the downer finale. The only other finale I thought was worse than that was the show. I don't know if you guys watched the show Medium. NBC.
No, I didn't see that.
Yes, that I won't even go into that, but that also had the same kind of feel to it because you didn't know what was going on, and then at the very end they explained, and it also had a death of a beloved character, and it's like, oh wow, let's just go out with a bang and a downer. But I think Enterprise was never really conceived with a lot of. I don't want to say it wasn't conceived with a lot of thought, but I think it was not really as well planned out as other Star Trek shows. I mean,
Well, I think it's difficult just because it was a prequel, so there is like it just creates challenges. Even because we've never heard, like, no one has ever mentioned Archer in passing. I think
exactly.
maybe there's an Archer 2 that's a planet or something.
There is an Archer.
So
too
I mean that's
planet.
kind of cool, but I don't know. I kind of
Even
They
with the
mentioned him in
title,
2009.
let's get rid of the word Star Trek and let's just call it Enterprise so that we can separate it from Star Trek, and then quickly realize that's a dumb idea because we want to get Star Trek fans to connect.
Because no one realized it was a Star Trek show.
But
can you think of a dumber way to promote a Star Trek program?
Yeah.
And to separate the word from Star Trek, because we had Star Trek, we had Star Trek the Animated Series, we had Star Trek The Next Generation, we had Star Trek Deep Space Nine, we had Star Trek Voyager, all successful, but let's do a prequel show and make it a secret that we're, maybe people won't realize that it's connected to Star Trek and it'll be a great hit.
That has
Wonderful.
No, that wasn't the thinking. That wasn't the thinking at all.
Stupid.
I think it was because they thought, well, Enterprise is synonymous with Star Trek,
Star
that you
Trek,
can just call it Enterprise. But it just begs the question: why if you were to say Enterprise on TNG, why does it sound silly if you don't say the? But somehow Enterprise works without the. It's a silly question, but it's always plagued me. Like, you can't say the Voyager; you call it Voyager.
Yeah.
But why does the work sometimes? Nobody knows. Doesn't matter.
Because
Just a thought.
it's because you use. I think also because we use you use the word Voyager.
Right. You don't ever say.
You can use it without being
Right. Okay.
But
Actually, it is used.
Because you could use
without
Enterprise.
the-
I was like, you don't really say. I was like, it's weird.
Well, at least have Star Trek in the title, which they fixed.
Yeah, they did fix it, and I actually like the
They
theme
kept
song.
on tweaking the whole series. Like,
entire
season 1, we had issues. I think they didn't change the name until what, season 3 to Star Trek, or did they keep it?
the absolute extinction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you remember though, but also with Star Trek, I don't think it generally has a good track record when you're looking at season 1 of shows.
No.
So I think
not all of them are.
And most shows are
bad.
not the same
I still
in
think
their-
Deep Space
they're
Nine
not
is still
inaugural
the
season.
best if you're going to say for a season 1 show out of all.
Oh
of them.
no, I think
Which
that's
one?
terrible.
Almost every
I love Deep
show
Space
there
Nine.
is.
There's no such. Yeah.
I think it
grows.
probably is the strongest. I think
It's
you
the
can make an
strongest out
argument.
of all.
No,
of our,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think the original series.
Yeah, the original series is good. The season 1's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on to season 2. I think is probably the best season of the original series. But yeah, season 1 has some good stuff.
you know what it is in my head? Sometimes I forget to think of the original series, like, when I'm thinking of all, because I'm like, I consider it its own boxing, you know what I mean? Like it's its own entity.
Yeah, I mean,
When
it's
I think
definitely.
of I think everything else like as, additions to, that's why in my head, I'm like, well, out of the ones that are not Star Trek, the original series.
It sounds like you sort of see it like from a sort of production aspect and like what series was released first. But I think in my mind it's more like chronologically what came first. That's interesting.
Yeah, but you could always make the argument that even though Enterprise is technically first, it's also a prequel within the universe because it's a sequel to First Contact. You could technically say that, I guess, if we want to get into the whole timey-wimey situation.
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
But
I do
even
love
then,
timey-wimey
it's like
wibbly wobblies.
Yeah, me too.
even then, it's like how much did the temporal Cold Wars change things? And even like First Contact, the actor of Zafran Cochrane.
I love that guy.
At the time,
James Cromwell. I love him.
Yeah, James Cromwell. He was like thinking, and the way that he interpreted First Contact was that it was set in an alternate timeline where originally like the Next Generation characters hadn't been there. That's debatable whether that is in the prime timeline or not.
Yeah, it's
That is true.
it's. I lie awake at night thinking about like,
It
wait,
is true.
is this actually the right timeline,
No,
or was this like? Because I was talking to other people and they
no.
say like them going back into time has always been something that happened, so it was always that timeline.
It's a set point in
Yeah,
the
so there was no
wibbly
timeline where they
wobblies.
didn't interfere with it.
Why we?
But
I know. I feel. Didn't you see the doctor's box in there? He was making sure it was going on.
I like he teamed up apparently in one of the comics or something.
He
I think
did.
he
Yeah,
teamed
there's a
up with
comic with
TNG.
Yeah.
And there was apparently going to be a crossover between Doctor Who and Enterprise.
Oh, that would have been cool. I would have been down for that.
I would have watched
Russell
it.
T
Yeah, I
Davies
wonder
was
which
considering
doctor
it.
would have been the one to meet up with them.
Would it have been
Wouldn't it? Wasn't
the
it David
David? What's his
Tennant?
name?
David
Yeah,
Tennant.
Yeah,
David
David Tennant.
He was like there around like 2005, I think. Around
Yeah.
that time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like this is exciting. I was like, this. I think this is the most I've talked about Star Trek Enterprise in forever.
I'm always
But
down for a good Enterprise discussion. I think that's
I am too,
totally
'cause
underrated.
when you were talking, like you were like, I didn't hear if you said that they didn't really talk about Archer either. Was it you said before the show, or you mean just in general?
I mean,
Or-
like, so if you were to look at, like, they're always bringing up, they're not even really bringing up Kirk all the time in the other series, but there was not even like a passing reference to, oh, there was this guy named Archer
Well,
who was the first.
Yeah,
But I was trying to
I
think,
thought that
like,
was,
in
I
real
thought
life.
it was interesting. In Nemesis, they had a ship called the USS Archer.
yeah.
They did? Which ship? Or was it one of the, like,
There
in
is-
the,
there's
the
a couple
Nebula
of
fleet or
things.
something? That was, they were
Yeah.
supposed to rendezvous with?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I thought it was
okay.
interesting. They were like able to seed like references back in like later productions. Start
So
to
I
do
will
that.
say, like, even though I don't like the final at all, I do like the fact that the one good thing about bringing Riker is it somehow then inserts Enterprise like into the timeline, so it's like it makes it feel legitimate. Like, oh, Riker and Troy are talking about Enterprise, and they're acknowledging as part of the history. That part was
Yeah.
kind of
I agree with
I
you.
like that aspect, but
Okay.
Although I think a better way of doing it would have been instead of sandwiching it into a past episode of Next Gen where Deanna
It could
and
be a
Riker
current one.
look nothing like what
right,
they
the
did
hair
at
was
Right.
way
the
off.
time. They could have instead gone
Been on the
ahead
Titan.
and put them on Titan because this was post Nemesis
Mhm.
episode, and that would have been exciting for fans. Fans wouldn't have like hated this finale as much if they
And then
got
it could have been a
new
It could have been a
Titan.
conflict he was currently in instead
Mhm.
of an
Yeah,
old conflict.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
There
Dan.
you
go.
Exactly.
But it
It would
also
have been
just
more contemporary. We would have gotten to see a new ship, or at least
Mhm.
a little bit. We would have gotten to see something exciting, and it would have been much more relevant to look to the past of Enterprise. And maybe we could have
Okay.
swallowed this finale better that way.
And I
Um,
think, yeah, I think if Dan, like, if it was that way where it's like it was an add-on, it would have been better because the problem is it makes it seem like the Enterprise characters are
Just
like
they didn't
they're not
matter.
as legitimate because, well,
Mhm.
we're going to end them with the hologram.
And also, you know,
Oh,
in a similar move, there was an episode of Voyager where we saw the Excelsior, you know, and that was sandwiched into the end of Star Trek VI, and it was great. It had Michael Ansara reprising his role of Kang, who I always thought
Kang.
should have been in Star Trek VI in the movie, and that they kind of sandwiched that. That was the same concept, and I always thought, well, especially since it didn't work out because they ended up killing a character who was in the group shot at the end of the
not
movie,
Voltran.
which was
Voltran?
stupid. But what if they were to
yeah.
again set it ahead? It didn't need to be sandwiched into
mhm.
Star Trek VI. There was no relevant continuity that required that story to be told stuck within that, as far as I remember. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
No, yeah, there was no reason.
It had Sulu, and Sulu would have loved it. Why not do a Sulu episode with the Excelsior and all that, told after the events of Star Trek?
And then, yeah, Tuvok could have been on the ship, and it wouldn't have been as weird.
Exactly.
You know, if anything, they
I
should
can
have
see,
explained
like,
in Generations.
Yeah, Dan.
I can see like these are the voyages like from the perspective that you're talking about, but it kept occurring to me like then like you wouldn't been able to see, I guess, probably what's my favorite part of the entire episode, which is the very end, where you've got like the different enterprises, starting with Enterprise D, and that montage that Mike Sussman actually suggested. I thought that was a great idea to and you know the different captains of the Enterprise to say like the different parts of the space, the Final Frontier speech and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I see your point on that.
Yeah.
I think they could have done that at the ending of the show, beforehand, not on this particular episode.
Or Riker could have even said to Deanna, if they were on the Titan, saying, "Gee, I still miss our
The Enterprise, the days on the Enterprise, or something."
Or boy, the Enterprise, was such a beautiful ship, or something like that. We would have still got.
Yeah, I was imagining like you could have even like done like a zoom into like a picture of the Enterprise or whatever, and then it actually starts come to life and starts moving.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
And then it's more, or they could have had their own little models, kind of like Captain Picard and his different models of Enterprises. That
you broke your little ships.
You broke your little ships.
A good scene.
So first thing I thought was, you broke your little ship. But it's just that I like what everyone was kind of saying is that when I think of that episode, it did nothing for the work that they had finally got everyone hooked into. It was just kind of like, it was just such a letdown. Yes. Like it did, especially after seeing the two-parter beforehand, which was a better send-off. If you were going to just end it there, because then you would have just been like, okay, they're going to keep continuing without us, and it's fine. Versus,
but also, like, I wonder how much of that was sort of like the
it was last
sort of
minute
disconnect that maybe Rick Berman and Brian and Braga were feeling, or just were basically by that time, because they had left before they'd left almost entirely, apart from like a consultancy sort of role. By the time that the fourth season was on, when they would just like let Manny Koto take the reins of the first season, and then I don't know how much they were like. Well, how do we sort of like because I was thinking like by the time that happened, how do we please Star Trek fans without sort of like spoon feeding them Star Trek? Because I was thinking about like certain scenes where Riker and Troy are like visiting the Enterprise bridge, and the Enterprise bridge is like empty, or the Red Room, and Troy like oh, look at this, the little scope.
They go to 10 forward, but they did bring back one of the background guys, so that was kind of cool. Who was in a lot of TNG. But it does feel empty. It's weird when they're going to like the places that we recognize. But then again, like TNG, like this is a really random thing, but growing up, I didn't understand the idea that TNG, the show, didn't have like a lot of money to be able to hire random background people. So when Generations came out, I thought there was a party. I'm like, what are people celebrating in 10 forward, not realizing, oh, it's just because they have money now. They can hire a lot of background people. And I just thought, oh, it's a party. There must be something that they're celebrating. But yes, you're right. Going back to your point, though, it was weird seeing them in the kind of classic TNG sets, but they're just feeling empty.
Oh, no, I meant the Annex, like the Annex class Enterprise sets. Where Troy, where they talk about, the captain had a dog.
Oh, I see what
and
you're
they
saying.
see at the science station, like the scope that's like Spock, just like Spock's scope and stuff like that.
Okay.
How much Easter eggs for the fans can we include? It feels a bit like beating over the head the fans with like these fan references and stuff like that.
Look here! Look, I found this. Oh, that point here.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, did you see it over here? What about these? How about that over there? So. But I will say, just randomly, because we were talking about people mentioning Archer or thinking of him, I do remember in like 2009 when Scotty says, that he's stuck on this planet because he did make, Admiral Archer's prize beagle disappear, and I started laughing.
Yeah. Which is really, it's
kind of fun.
It's a funny joke, but then when you think about Porthos, it's like, that's really brutal. Like,
it's just gonna
Like-
I mean, it would be Porthos like number like 75 at
And
that
would
I hope
point.
Archer
so.
allow? Would
Because
Archer allow
Archer is
anyone
like
to
a million and
experiment with
10 at
his
this
dog?
point. What's
Yeah, I don't
that?
think
Archer
so.
really allow anything? I mean, he wouldn't even let somebody give the dog cheese. I mean, come on. Like,
He
he's
used to
not
give
going to
the
say,
dog
"Oh, here,
cheese.
take my dog and put him on an experimental transporter," because it's just my dog. Like
Yeah.
Archer wouldn't have done that.
He
But he
almost
had been over
ruined his
100
career because
But
of
you know what though? He was over 100 years old at that point.
Okay, so it wasn't Porthos then.
It would have
so,
been it'd have been Porthos number 72 at that point.
Yeah.
okay, that makes me feel
Yeah,
a little less.
Porthos part 50. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
because Archer at that point would have been over 100 years old.
I think so. Yeah. If
Yes,
you're,
that's what-
yeah.
like-
That's a
he
good
would have
point,
been.
Danny. He might
No,
have been
that's what I'm
like,
saying. That's why I thought it'd be funny.
bring the dog. Yeah,
Yes,
put
I
the
think
dog
he
over
would have
there,
probably be
yeah.
like, "Oh, you're gonna make the dog come closer to me," because he'll be like McCoy in the first episode of Next Generation. He'll be 9,000.
Yeah.
Well, I
9,000.
thought it was interesting. This earlier this week, was it this week? What day is the start date? Yeah, it was this week. Earlier this
Saturday.
So it's the star date. I have to look.
I don't know how they work.
The latest Star Trek novel came out, Wonderlands, which it talks about how. So it's basically set in Discovery's third season, between like the first and second episodes of that season, and it basically hypothesizes that because you've already got like the burn by the 32nd century, where like it had the disruptive effect on technology, that people no longer live as long as they did. So they no longer live like to the hundreds and stuff like that. So I thought it was quite interesting.
Oh, because of the burn. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Do you think when Scotty had the dog and put him in the transporter room and talked to Archer, I'm still stuck on that. Do you think,
Yeah, that
do you
always
think
struck
he used
me
the
out.
line and said, "Don't worry, Admiral Archer, he's just going to make a quantum leap forward"?
I would go for that.
Oh, that ready?
As well, like,
Sorry, had to go there.
Hey, yeah, I gotta
Well,
bring up
I'm so-
quantum.
They
I'm
almost
so
hey,
glad-
NBC was looking at bringing Quantum Leap back because
Yeah.
Sam Beckett has never left home. He's still out there.
Oh, right. I read about that. That's like the most frustrating. Like, I'd
It
never
is the
watched the
most
full series,
So
but
you
it's
know
just
what?
like,
He's a part of two different series.
Yeah.
With weird ass. I'm sorry.
and I think
weird episodes of like what?
I think New Orleans is getting to that territory. Like the recent storyline, I don't know. I'm not loving that whole reveal. So I don't know how it's gonna end.
By the way, it is Stardate 98988.47. You're welcome. I looked it up.
The only one I know is Stardate 3018.2.
I
But
literally
cool.
just looked it up because I'm a nerd.
Cool you included the reference to 47 in there. I kept meaning to say, like, regarding Admiral Archer's beagle, I was so glad that Porthos is beamed back in the comics.
oh, good.
At least.
That's good. I'm glad.
It took a long road to get there from here.
They did.
Have you seen that meme where they have Janeway listening to the first part of the song and it says it's been a long. She goes, no, it hasn't. She's trying us out, and I'm like,
He's like,
oh,
That's awesome.
I bet she had faith in the heart to get back.
I think
from
it's
the
a good
caretaker.
song. I know it gets people don't like it,
Unpopular opinion. I actually liked it.
and I think it fits. It
I got
like-
faith of the heart.
and it's exactly what Star Trek is about, like having faith, believing.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
It
I think
grew
it's
on
good.
me. But
But
then
I
saw
like the
a
first
fan
version better than the other one.
I saw a fan version where they took the end credits and put it to the same opening, and I was like, now I see that maybe that would have worked better.
Yeah, if you mean they had like put the theme in the end credits as well?
They put the end credit music to the front.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
They just
and I was
dropped
like, well, that's not so bad. That actually would have, worked. And
I
maybe
I got
just add
faith.
Archer's little log, or something like that, or a few words, narration.
I know Bob Picardo liked it, and he's all about music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently, I think
didn't
he
know
did.
that.
I remember reading an article where he said, like, they asked him, "Are you watching the new show?" And like, I think that would have been 2001, and I remember a lot of actors coming out and saying that they weren't a fan of it. But then Bob Ricardo was saying, "Oh yeah, he and his daughter would watch it every week, and we'd sing along to the theme song." I thought, "Oh, cool! It has the Doctor seal of approval."
Cool.
I
I always thought it
like
would have been
that song.
better if they did, had what they used for the temp track for the opening titles, which was like U2's "Beautiful Day," but they wouldn't have been able to afford like the licensing to clear
Oh my
that copyright.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
But even then, like I thought as well, like when they changed it for in the fourth season for the In and With the Darkly two-parter, I thought that was a cool theme.
That was a good idea.
I will. You know
really
what?
dramatic.
I will. I do love the music of Star Trek though. So I'm like as I said, unpopular opinion. I actually really liked it. I liked the first version better. I didn't like when they sped it up to make it weirdly poppy or something. I don't know what they did.
Yeah, I know what you
It
mean.
got, I thought it was worse.
I have to go.
I preferred it.
Look that up.
Of course you did, Dan. I feel like Dan, your job is to like the opposite of what I said.
I think it's cool. I think it's showing that hey, we
That's
can all
right.
love Star Trek, but like different things. It's
I know, but
Absolutely.
it's weird. But
Absolutely.
when your name is Daniel and Danielle, it makes it funnier. Get it?
okay.
It's Dan versus Danny.
It's a face-off, the one we've
It
been
is-
waiting
it's a
for
Dan-off.
years.
Do, 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 do.
You've got to put a knee in there.
Dan. Knee. That's okay. You keep this up, Dan. It'll be a Dan off.
A dance off.
Put the music on. I'm
Look
like,
at all the
yeah.
fun that you
Like,
missed.
this is my new dance move
your
from
technical issue. today.
MCU.
I'm like,
Because
I feel like
of,
that's the wrap it up. I was like, yep, come
No,
on.
no,
Wrap it up.
it's the Zemo dancing. Where it's
No,
like-
the Zemo dance. I love Zemo.
me too.
I love Doctor Who, where he's like the giraffe and stuff like that. He does
Wait,
weird,
is it-
weird
Oh,
dance moves.
the Matt Smith one.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen that.
You never seen the Matt Smith Doctor?
I
love that we're
think
just
I've seen
he was
bits and
wild.
pieces.
He
Doctor
was
right
Who is
into-
like a huge blind spot for me.
I love Doctor Who. And it's funny is that I'm not gonna lie that I know randomly. I know we just got off topic, but
Yeah,
I've seen all of the Doctor Who's from 9 up, but only seen about 2/3 of Matt Smith because sometimes he got on my nerves. So I would have to skip episodes. I would start watching it. I'm like, this is too silly for me.
We knew that Matt Smith loved his bow ties, and he also loved.
Fezzes! Because Fezzes are cool. I like when he said Stetsons are cool because I am from Texas and Stetsons are cool. I'm just saying. I feel like Bob is going to get a Fez. Because Fezzes are cool. And then
cool.
as everyone kept trying to take the Fez off,
Cool.
I'm like, oh.
Where the tassel's supposed to go? This way? Definitely not this way.
Well, if it goes that way, you can, if your nose is itching, you can just, I'm good. Oh, wait, I got something hanging? I got it. Now it's in your face, though. You may want to, flick it off there, but,
Well, Danny, I think you might be right. We sort of
Gotta
gone
say,
down a rabbit hole of a tangent.
sorry.
All right, what's the Star Trek tangent we can go on?
It's just, cool hats in Star Trek.
Not a great selection of hats.
Well, there is Guinan.
There's
Guinan.
Guinan. I
That's
mean,
true.
Nothing comes to
Wait.
mind.
okay, we didn't say, okay, so best hat in Star Trek. Guinan.
Guinan, definitely.
wins. Who's also the best counselor on board. Guinan.
Actually,
Not Troy.
Guinan.
I really like the hats they introduced for Enterprise. The caps. I really
Oh yeah,
like those.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
like an actual I could see real people wearing that.
Yeah, that was good.
And that made it feel more relatable. But I feel like from a hat perspective, there's been
It's not.
nothing.
I mean, I cannot rock a Guinan hat because I feel like I can't get through, doors
You wouldn't be able
properly.
to fit through the door.
And that's one thing I'll say about 2009. Enterprise did it pretty well too, but same with Discovery is we finally have pretty decent civilian clothing. Like you're not,
Yes.
except for
Not-
maybe Jake. Jake actually looked fairly good as a civilian. He wasn't forced to wear ridiculous sweaters.
He didn't get Wesley'd.
He didn't get Wesley'd
I
exactly because
mean,
I
in the
don't feel
beginning,
like
in the beginning, he was Wesley'd because
a little bit.
he had
but-
a
yeah,
unitard.
that's right. That's right.
The
yes.
onesie. He had a
Yeah.
onesie until he no longer had a. Then he had a twosie.
Yeah, he did.
But no, he did. He did not get Wesley'd. I
Yeah.
know that. You know what? That should be a topic for another. The wardrobe of Star Trek.
Because I love fashion, so it's
I
like,
know.
yeah.
So
Star
we can
Trek
go
is
with
do a
great, but
special episode
each
just for
episode.
that.
I was like, not each episode. Sorry, each different series. Your best, your worst, and what were they thinking when they created this?
the Bajoran
So-
outfits, the Bajoran uniform,
Are
the
terrible.
Bajoran militia uniforms, not good.
Yeah, something like that, and then that can also go into alien makeup too, like ones that are just absolutely the most ridiculous. However, I'm gonna give the original series more of a pat. We can't make fun of because that's just a different time
True,
period.
that is true.
So
You
I'm
have to
like,
be
so if you start thinking of those, we'll give them they get kind of passes on a lot of theirs. However, there's some that you just go, really, we didn't even try, did we? Looking at you,
Yeah.
Klingon makeup.
Well,
Yeah, there's some issues with the Klingon makeup.
Looking at you, Klingon makeup.
Yeah,
At least make them into
There's
a
some
Gorn.
challenges.
Come on, I'm just kidding. Ugh. Ugh. Sorry, I love a good Gorn.
yeah, I think there's probably others that I thought were not.
Metamorph with here's some sparkles on your face, Framkin Jensen, because you're too pretty for us to put stuff on your face.
oh
Yeah,
right,
there-
When she
there's
was
like
in
others that I thought were not as.
But I was like, no,
You
no.
know,
I was like, we have to save it. I was like, that's a whole because I know that we all have to turn into pumpkins soon. So I'm like,
There were
I don't wanna
other
devolve too much
species in the
into it
original
yet.
series that I thought had worse makeup
Okay.
than
Yeah.
than the Klingons, like the Capellans. For
I
example.
know.
Capellans.
Hey,
The hat
you're giving too much.
Yeah.
with the
Like Mal.
the ninja stars, I guess, that they would throw around at people. Is that what, those
Yeah.
are the Capellans, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they're in the episode with Klingons. But I
Right.
thought, yeah, the Klingons are, I think, like marginally slightly better makeup.
How about the space hippies that have the
Oh,
Zardoz
right.
look going on? Especially the one that played the guitar,
Well, I thought it was really cool actually because not because
Space hippie.
because of the episodes, the way to Eden, I think it was called.
Yeah, the way to Eden.
We are one.
Yeah, I thought, as you're saying, like I didn't think that was the best makeup, but I thought like later they were able to like do cool sort of harken backs or whatever, call backs
They needed
to
space
that
beatniks.
makeup in like Deep Space Nine, for example.
How did they?
Aw.
What did they do a callback to that in DS9? I remember they brought that actor back to play a general.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was a how do you say it? Tiburon species? Tiburon species?
Ooh,
I'm
drawing a
sure.
blank. This is embarrassing.
Tiburon.
That's okay because I'm like, there's actually a comic book bubble over my head with question marks in it, going, huh?
Yeah, I'm
your-
trying to think
on
of
your
what
feet.
episode that was in.
Tiburon, wasn't that
Oh, the
one
ship,
of
I think.
one of the women from that episode from not the Arena, but with the episode with Angelique Pettyjohn, in the one, Lady Gaga before Lady Gaga was Lady
Oh,
Gaga,
I,
Oh
lady-
no, that wasn't that.
that lady.
No, I'm
still
wrong.
love
I'm
that.
completely wrong on that. I'm thinking the wrong episode. The episode where they brought Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it may have been that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because didn't they have a female character, and she was from, I thought, Tiburon.
Yeah, like Zal or something like that. I'm sure the name starts
Yeah.
with a Z. Yeah.
You had Colonel Green, who was
oh right,
pretty-
yeah, Colonel Green.
Yeah, why didn't we get to see Colonel Green in Enterprise, or maybe he was too early for Enterprise? Colonel
Well, we
Green.
did. He was
got
on the
to
TV
see-
screen.
We got to see Blade Runner guy though.
that's right, I
or not
forgot.
Blade Runner, RoboCop. Sorry, my mistake. Apologize, everybody. Very sorry for
Colonel
the.
I was
Colonel
gonna say,
Green's
wait,
in that two-parter with Peter
I
Weller.
thought it was Professor Green and
Ah,
Colonel
Peter Weller.
Mustard.
Okay, I forgot.
Weren't they in the library with the candlestick?
And I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'm drawing a
I
blank.
was
But I
Miss
didn't know
Starbuck.
that. Was Lady Gaga
Part.
really in Star Trek? I did not know that.
No,
I was
you
gonna
never
say-
seen.
No,
No, the
that's the-
60s, there was one of the alien women, and there's like this whole thing that that Lady Gaga looks like her, and so
in
they
the
keep
game,
going.
the gamesters
Oh,
were
okay.
Triskelion.
Yeah,
I gotcha because
Gamesters
Iggy
are
Pop was
Trek.
also was actually in Star Trek, so I thought, oh, maybe there was
yes, he
another celebrity.
was. He was not a Wayun. I almost said he was a Wayun. He was
Yeah, I know
the
it's
species of Wayun.
Vorta.
Vorta. He was a Vorta. Yeah. It's like
Oh, okay.
I forgot
Oh,
which
and
one he
I
was.
said, I know who you know.
Yeah, I do. Sorry. And you
Okay,
talk
so
about
now-
Deep Space Nine. I'm there. I'm always
Okay,
there.
now we're talking about the Gamesters of Triskelion. Now I know who you're talking about,
Yeah.
which is a really random scene. It's like, yeah, we're gonna kiss and then knock you out.
She
You didn't
was-
know she was singing Bad Romance that whole time. Just
Yeah, the
it
whole
was
time.
no one knew. Mama, mama,
We probably don't get like copyright.
Oh,
I know.
yeah, that's a fair point.
It was
Lady Gaga songs.
you know,
no. It was a parody for like 2 seconds.
yeah.
Didn't play actual music. I do not.
No,
I
that
do
still
not.
can get
Oh my.
copyrighted or something.
Good
or
gravy.
Get
Okay.
a strike for that. Apparently.
Whoopsie. All right, I will not.
I remember Chekhov almost, but you have the opposite. He's like, Kirk gets this gorgeous woman, and Chekhov gets this woman who wants to mate with him, who
In the same
sounds
episode.
like tougher
Yeah.
than he does.
Yeah.
You know?
And then Chekhov just gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody
And
screams
for-
like Chekhov, though. Although Harry Kim is a good screamer.
For years, I was like, is that actually a woman or is it a male?
Yeah, that there's a
Oh,
lot
going
of
off.
uncomfortable things in that episode that
Oh,
Harry
I've
Kim,
never left in
who
the
has the
60s.
opportunity to get it on with 7 of 9, turns it down, and to this day, he's like, I would stay in Ensign forever if I could just go back in time and reverse my decision. Damn
sorry.
my
I still feel like they would have made more sense together than her and Chakotay, no matter what.
although in the books I think in like Homecoming, which takes place right after they get home, I think they immediately like Chakotay and Seven immediately break up, and then it's like, all
Thank
right,
goodness.
that's good.
Because they were not. They had no They were her. I was like, dude, rather her and the Doctor. Even. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it should
that'd
have been Doctor and Seven and Chakotay and Janeway. That's how it should have been.
right.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
so,
I could have seen that. That was thrown out of left field too at the end. And Voyager's
got rid of it.
finale was much better, I thought.
It was-
Oh yeah, it was a good finale.
I liked
I have
it.
issues
But there
with
were
it, but I
certain
liked
things
it.
that-
there's massive, but I liked it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but,
I'm like,
but
I
that,
still-
that part. Well, maybe we'll find out in the next season of Picard what did ever happen between, her and Chakotay. Is Chakotay
Yeah.
even alive at this point?
As someone pointed out, they could have had either Janeway be the admiral that he deals with, or Nechayev, which would have been,
I think
which would
that
have
would
been
have.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nechayev would have been good too. Yeah.
I would have voted for Nechayev because she likes
Wonderful
she-
actress. I met
Yeah,
and
and she
interviewed her
chat-
years ago, and she had told us at the time that that they were originally planning to have her character build up to have like a romance with Picard.
Oh, interesting.
And
Could have been.
unfortunately, I don't know what changed, but that never developed. But that she
Well,
she
so
was a
many
great character.
aspects changed. I kept thinking during this discussion. I thought it was really interesting that basically that they initially gave some consideration to having Kim either like leaving. Like apparently it was between Kim and Cass that would depart from Voyager.
I guess.
And also
Yeah.
like having him be written as an alien character, in that episode where he thinks he might be alien and stuff like that, and apparently they were going to conclude that with him actually being alien. I thought it was quite a bit similar to Riker, who they were actually going to kill off in the next
and had
generation,
Thomas,
and replace him with Thomas Riker in Second Chances.
Yeah, but I think with Kim, I think he was like voted as like one of the sexiest men. And,
That's
like,
how that was the
TV
only reason why he
guide.
was,
I think
and that's
was
why he was
they-
saved.
Yeah,
I think I
He's
like.
a funny guy. The actor is just
Garrett is
very
really
nice.
nice. He's
Oh,
a
he
really
is
nice
fun.
guy.
I
He's
listen
awesome.
to the. Have you guys listened to the Delta Flyers at all? I listen to that every week, and I love listening to the two of them.
He's very clever.
And he's a
Yeah.
good guy.
I've definitely. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a great show.
I've met them a few times. They're very nice. We've chatted a bunch at different times. The podcast I was on a while back, we were chatting and stuff with them. But I'm like, it would have made me stuff that Kess didn't have a lot to do, and her character was awkward.
Yeah.
That was.
I will-
It was just her character was awkward.
I'll
Her and
say-
Neelix was awkward.
So two things about Kess. I think the problem with Kess was when Kess was on the show, Neelix was at his creepiest.
Right.
And then, so I think that's the one thing. But the one I was going to say something else. I can't think of it. But the good thing about Kess, though, is I feel that people don't give her credit for. Is she was the one to really help the crew see that the Doctor was like a person,
Yes.
Yeah.
and she had to advocate and say, "Hey guys, like this is the Doctor. He's a real person. You can't treat him like this anymore." Not quite as bluntly, but she
No,
did
no,
a good
I
job
think-
with that.
I agree with that. I think it was, but I think having a creature that only lives to their 9, and then seeing her when she's like 3, which makes her barely like a teenager, kind of, made it so weird because it wasn't even just the Neelix thing. Remember, Tom Paris was also into her too.
Yeah.
because she looks like an
Neelix and
an
him
adult.
fight over her. Yeah.
But
she looks like an
so-
adult, but she's practically like a preteen kind
Yeah.
of
What's the
thing.
opinions on when they
Green
voted out,
Lantern has a
basically?
similar character, just like that. Almost looks like Kess. I
Sorry,
don't know
wait,
if-
what was?
if
Wait, say
character
that
was
again.
got Kess inspired, but it had the same creep out because she had a crush on Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, and
Oh.
she suddenly had to grow up because it was just too creepy. The crush was. And
It's
even after she grew up, it just seemed creepy too. So
yeah.
the same thing with Neelix and Ferris with Kess.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan, what was your question?
Yeah, what was
So,
it?
what opinions do you have about how they wrote her out and then like basically brought her back for like one episode where in season 7 where she's like raining destruction down on the
Yeah.
Voyager and stuff like that?
That was it's a
mm.
weird episode.
I agree.
I don't
You think?
know. I mean,
I thought her
can't- I
send
don't
off
have
was
any-
was like, but that episode just it didn't make sense. Like she came back, she was like, I hate all of you, it's your fault. But you chose this
Yeah, you chose
path.
to leave, and
You
you were
chose
fine
to-
with it.
Then how is it their fault? They didn't stop you from leaving,
Yeah.
evolving? It was
that
it was
wasn't
weird.
a good way to bring her back. It would have been better for her just to introduce another storyline or something she encountered that they needed to address. And then
Yeah.
join forces, not have an adversarial thing. It just
They killed them all.
that made no sense. Yeah.
And I just want to bring. Oh, sorry, Dan. You're going to say something too?
I think the way that I sort of consider that episode and stuff like that is maybe a bit different. I thought it's cool that like the development of the accompanying powers is like foreshadowed from like right from the word go, right from like caretaker basically. And like the way that I always thought of it was maybe it's a bit like the effect that the ring has on Gollum or whatever, where she her thinking is being warped while she's while she's got these powers. That was like my headcanon basically.
Why she was so enraged? Okay, yeah, I can buy that.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm going to say, just talking about the whole Neelix thing, the one thing that I didn't realize until rewatching it, like back in at the beginning of lockdown, was it took a warlord to possess her for her to realize that maybe being with Neelix wasn't a good idea, and that's a pretty dark thought. When it's like, okay, so you're telling me that a main character, only realized that she shouldn't be with someone because a warlord took her over, or took her mind over. It's like, okay, that's
a weird.
that's getting into weird territory, which is like not appropriate for. Well, I wouldn't say is a good thing for like Voyager when it's generally pretty PG, but you're getting into some.
It was already weird. I mean,
Yeah,
you're like, wait, do they share a cabin? Wait, they don't share a cabin, but they do share a cabin. No, they don't. Wait, I don't.
nobody knows.
It depended on the writers,
Right. It was
that
a weird.
particular
Like, their
episode.
relationship didn't make any sense.
in Warlord, I like really liked the performance that the cast actress gave Jennifer Lean in that episode. I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah, she did a
Oh,
really good
yeah.
job. Like it was one of the few episodes I hadn't seen a lot. So I was rewatching it in March or April last year, and I was like, "Wow, this is really good." She was doing a really good job. Yeah, I think if they had just given her more stuff to do, because I think she was a good actor. I just think she
And I
wasn't
liked her
always
on this
given
show.
stuff. Yeah,
It's just they needed to figure out a better way of, like, when they came on board to be like, hey, let's explore new things and not make Neelix creepy and annoying. Because
or
in the
they
end,
could have.
I
They could have
liked
picked them
Neelix in
up
the end. I remember in the
separate.
beginning not liking Neelix, and then in the end really liking Neelix.
Like I think Neelix turns around, especially when
Yeah.
Naomi is a main character. That's when I think Neelix really does shine into or comes into his own. But I was going to say, like, one thing they could have done is they could have had Kess is very sympathetic. She's easy to talk to. You're lost in space. You might need a counselor.
Yeah.
Have her,
Right.
do that. It's like
She could
did-
become Guinan.
yeah, or could have become what Troy. Actually, to Troy's credit, she does a really good job in Picard.
Yes.
Whereas, like,
She was-
this is what
she was-
what we wanted from Troy from the beginning.
That's kind of like the concept. Everyone was like,
Well,
wow, is she a counselor? Because she should be a
she's doing
counselor.
it.
She
Yeah.
should be a counselor.
Well,
She's
Cass
really
had the pixie thing going on anyway, like Tinkerbell, and wasn't Tinkerbell the conscience?
I assume so. That sounds right to me.
was she? Because she was kind of shady.
Tinkerbell was shady.
Jimmy Tinkerbell? Yeah, she tried to kill Wendy.
I did not know that.
No, she's not perfect.
Yeah. Jiminy Cricket is the conscience.
Oh,
Right,
that-
but that's from a different.
Yeah, no,
my-
Tinkerbell is kind of a murderous pixie. She's kind of
But she was
devious.
cute. I'm thinking of the Disney
Yeah.
version with the little green outfit.
She
and-
tried to kill Wendy in the Disney version too.
Okay, I did
Oh.
not catch that. I haven't seen.
I
that
guess
in
I got to
a
binge
long
watch that
time.
as well because
It's not my
I
Peter
thought-
Pan's not my favorite story, but yeah,
I
she
I
doesn't
thought
like Wendy.
maybe-
She tried to she wanted to drown her at one point, like with the get the mermaids against her as well because the mermaids didn't like Wendy either.
But I thought
Wow,
Tinker
okay.
I thought Tinkerbell's wearing a blue dress. I thought maybe you're talking about like Fern Gully or something like that.
Okay,
It's-
Fern Gully. I'm like, I can't think of her. Not Zelda. What is her
Where
name?
it's like
Zelda.
a green
But-
dress.
Tinkerbell was always the blonde and the green in the Disney version.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
Tinkerbell.
And Kess did
She-
not
I
try
thought
to
it was
kill
weird.
anyone, as far as
No.
I know,
Well, I mean,
except the
Until she
crew
came
when she
back.
comes back.
when she
but-
came back.
Maybe there is a Kess Tinkerbell connection there with it. We just did.
Yeah,
Like, just make her look like Tinkerbell.
but I won't consider
Yeah,
she
she-
tried to
her
kill. I
looks
like
very
Dan's
elfin.
idea that she was crazy or feeling that way because she was being corrupted by the power. So it's like, okay, I like that actually. But can we talk about that cake for a second? That to Bailey and fudge cake. I always wanted one of those. There's a cake
Where is that?
Oh, there's a cake that, like at the beginning of the episode, when Janeway's trying to celebrate Tuvok's birthday, she hands him a cake, and I think Neelix makes the
okay.
same cake for Kess's birthday in the episode Twisted, and it looked really good.
Cool.
It'll be a
obsessed with
subject
food
of a
on
show
Trek.
someday. The cakes of Star Trek, because we have the cake that Data is cutting.
Oh
into Deanna
yeah, with
Troi.
mint frosting. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
You have
That looks so
Reed's pineapple cake because he was allergic.
Right,
And then
yeah.
you have these cakes. Yeah. The great cakes of Star Trek.
Now, I'm actually obsessed. Like I'm obsessed with food in general. So when like they deal with food in Trek, like that's another thing I liked about Enterprise is we got to see what they're eating, and they would talk about it. Whereas the other series, not as much. Maybe a little bit in Voyager.
Discovery
But I
does
think that
too,
was
sometimes.
because like by the time of like the Next Generation and the later set series, they had like the
replicators.
replicators. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't remember that name. But yeah, I thought like I was thinking about that recently. I thought maybe like the nearest thing they've got to that in Enterprise is like the drinks machine in the Mass.
Oh yeah, the protein thin. I can't say it. There's a word. I can't say it.
Synthesize?
Yes, that's the word.
Wait,
Yeah.
synthesizer?
Well,
I don't know why I have a hard time saying
it
that.
doesn't like I read through and watched through all the episodes of Enterprise and read through the scripts of each episode while watching each episode, and like there's no standard name for that machine. They just
Okay.
call whatever they like to.
Yeah, like I understand
Big
why they
drink
didn't
machine.
cook, but it's like
Food synthesizer,
in TNG they never, when they're having a meal, they never really say like what they're eating, and they never show them. They don't show the food, but as Enterprise, it's like we got to see, like they would always talk about the meal and what chef was making. And in Enterprise, you also got the benefit of them actually starting a meal, finishing the meal without stuff happening, which was always a nice change. Because characters in Star Trek never really get to finish their food. At least
not
when
everybody yet is like vegetarian or vegan, because I'm sure, I can't remember which episode it is, but I'm sure I've seen like there's an episode of Next Generation with Riker.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the one with like the fish guys. Mick Fleetwood.
No, you're
Is
thinking.
it Lonely Among Us or something?
No,
Yeah,
the one with
Lonely
it's
Among
the one
Us
with
is-
Loxana Troy, and they sitting there like they're eating the gross.
that's- that's a different
vitriol.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But-
but the one you're thinking of is Lonely Among Us, where there's like the two warring races, and they have
Yeah.
a conversation. Riker explains that no, it tastes like meat, but it's not actually meat because it was never.
Yeah.
Because it's not a. I don't know how he explained it, but something that it tastes like meat, but it's not actually meat.
The Katarian eggs too, the omelet, where it's called
Oh, the Katarian
bowl or something
with
like
dill
that.
wheat.
Yeah.
But well,
And
according to Enterprise and Discovery, it's like the dung on the ship. They're recycling.
Yeah, it's recycling. Actually, talking
Yeah.
about the Katarian eggs, I was going to say, Danny, at the beginning of the episode, when you said you didn't have a Star Trek background, you could just say, well, it's Kirk's kitchen. You've got the dill wheat there behind you. You've got
Actually,
the Katarian eggs.
it is a hydro. I have a hydroponics. That's what that machine is. So yes, there is dill there,
Good.
and rosemary, and thyme, and basil, and
There
a
you
huge
go.
tomato. I
You could
know.
almost say you've got a botany bay back there.
There
Well,
right
pretty
back
good.
to the start of the episode. So,
well, with
But
that said, though,
yeah, well, thank you
Yeah,
for
so-
watching this episode, viewers. We'll be back the same time next week when we'll be speaking with Belinda Snodgrass, that was
yeah.
part of the writing staff of The Next Generation. So we hope to see you then. We look forward to that. Post any comments that you have in the comment section. Like and subscribe to the video. Smash the like button, as co-host Maria is fond of saying.
Smash with a hammer. That's a different
Take
movie.
care. And
with Thor's hammer, Mjolnir.
track you later.
All right.